Directions for creating a yarn painting. As always, put your name on the back and then decide if you want to just sketch it or if you want to sketch and add paint. I would say stick with an abstract design or something that has larger pieces to it, not teeny tiny little spaces to fill in, because then it becomes extremely challenging to control the yarn and get it into teeny tiny spaces with glue. The purpose of adding paint is if there is any space between the pieces of your yarn, then you will see the flecks of color instead of just the color of the cardboard. Ultimately, your goal is to cover the cardboard completely, but sometimes it is inevitable that there will be spaces in between. So you decide how you would like to leave your cardboard, with or without paint. Whether you use paint or not is completely up to you. You'll see an example of both outcomes. And the main thing is to make sure that you're drawing very large so that you're not struggling to get yarn and glue in teeny tiny little spaces of a drawing. When your background's complete and ready for yarn, you'll notice there's yarn in some Ziploc bags. Only pull from the corner. I think it's helpful to cut smaller pieces to work with instead of a long strand that's stuck in the bag. And I cut those pieces and have them nearby, not too many. And then start adding glue along the edge, wherever you're going to start. Doesn't matter, you could start at any point on your background. And then take a Q-tip to spread the glue around a bit. You still want it to be on there pretty heavily to help the yarn stick better. I would stay away from the really wide yarn, as that tends to be very stubborn, but you're still welcome to use it if you would like. Then take a toothpick, and using the guidance of your fingers, you're going to carefully tap the yarn onto the glue. You can rotate your piece of cardboard and begin covering your cardboard with yarn. You can add the yarn by going around and around in the space, or you can create individual lines of yarn going different directions. There really isn't a wrong if you are filling in the space with yarn. As you can hopefully see here, I am rotating the piece of cardboard to kind of go in a circular motion or kind of go around and around until I am filling in the entire letter A. I stop periodically to get new pieces of yarn. I don't just keep going with one whole piece, because sometimes it gets very hard to control, or it gets stubborn, gets stuck on the toothpick or places we don't want on our piece. So it is slightly tedious before you get the hang of it, but once you do, it goes pretty quick. It picks up pace once you kind of get a feel for how to go about approaching this, and you just keep going until you're filling in the individual spaces of your design until it's all filled in with yarn. When you get to teeny tiny little spots, it's helpful to cut and kind of estimate how large of pieces you need. Add the yarn little pieces at a time and gently press them in there. Your toothpick is really great for that area so that it doesn't stick to your hand when you're trying to get the yarn in the small spaces. You could do each section similarly, where you rotate around, or you could add lines of yarn. As I said, there's not a wrong as long as you're filling in the space. Here, I just went straight across. And then if you look closely, you can see the different directions I went with my yarn. And this is my example where I did not use paint, and it is just an abstract design. I added a few lines and shapes, and then I just kind of started filling in all the separate sections that I saw and adding patterns of yarn going different directions, circular lines, wavy, so on and so forth, until I filled up my entire space. And lastly, I just want to comment that if you have pieces that extend off the edge of your cardboard, it is easier to cut them once your glue has had time to dry.